Hello, I'm Diane Trees. Numerous studies show that students who don't read during their summer vacation stagnate or even decline in reading ability. This effect becomes even more pronounced as students get older. With a little thought, summer reading can be an opportunity for the whole family to socialize. Dr. Michelle Pisani, Elementary Curriculum Coordinator for Seminole County Public Schools, joins us now with tips and advice for helping parents create a positive approach to summer reading. Dr. Pisani, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me here today.
What is summer slide, summer brain drain? What does that mean?
That has to do with the phenomenon that if students leave at the end of the school year in May and they kind of set everything aside for the summer and don't practice or keep up with their academic skills, that when they return in the fall there will be a regression in their achievement. And that can affect, math and science, but we really kind of key in on reading when we look at this because, reading's the gateway for the other subjects too when you read your science book or read math word problems. So it's a lot like if an athlete kind of gave up their sport after practicing it for 6 or 7 hours a day and gave it up for 3 months. When they would go back to it, they wouldn't be at that peak level that they were when they left off.
I wondered, because the emphasis that I've seen is reading and not so much on the math and the science. So reading is the key for all of it. Good analogy with an athlete. Your mind sort of atrophies, so to speak,
Right.
with it, yes. Are all children susceptible to this?
All children are susceptible to that slide if they don't get that practice, but especially those children that don't have access to books or literature or print on a regular basis, they're the ones that are kind of most vulnerable to that slide.
So it's not necessarily a question of reading level, ability, age, gender. Any child, if they're not using their reading skills, they might,
they might have some slide. Obviously, if your skills aren't as strong, you're probably going to slide back a little bit more, but yes, there's that potential for slide.
I read that even older children are sometimes more affected, and I didn't know why.
Right. Kind of back to that same analogy of if you don't lose it, you lose it kind of thing. So keeping them up with at least experiencing text and reading something that they like. It doesn't have to be that they're reading out of a textbook, every day. I think the summer is a good time for them to find something of interest to them and to read for pleasure and make that connection.
We'll talk a little bit more about that. Back to all of the children being susceptible. Does it matter with the income levels, the socioeconomic levels? I would think that might be a drawback for a number of reasons.
Right, and going along with that, a lot of times with socioeconomics, they may not have access to books quite as often. But if we can help get children the access to books, studies have been shown with Dr. Allington, who's well known in the field, that he did an extensive study over a course of 3 years with students when they were in first, second grade, all the way up to fourth, fifth, and they were in a lower socioeconomic group, and he, in his study, they were given books of their choice every summer. So it wasn't a set program or curriculum, if you will, or anything, but just that regular, receiving of books. Over the course of the 3 years, they did the study to see what their reading achievement was as compared to like students of like income levels who didn't have that access, and they outperformed them.
It's amazing to think that there are households that don't have the books. We take so much for granted. Seminole County Public Schools, how do you try to help? Do you have any programs that make books a little bit more accessible? Well,
we do. There's, in kind of trying to keep with the times, we do have information on our if families were to do a search on their computers, Let's Read Seminole, and through that they'll find information on even ebooks and how to access those through both our Seminole County Public Schools website and their login through that library, and also the Seminole County public library too. So those are some options kind of in keeping with the time. And we also have a bookmobile that we've had for the last few years that's really neat. If anybody has an opportunity to see it, it's a bus that's been converted. They've taken out all the seats and they've replaced them with shelving, and it goes around to several sites throughout the county in June and July, and kind of makes a rotating basis Monday through Thursday to get out in the community and try to provide that access to families.
Right.
for
I think
checkout.
that's really interesting. You have the e-books, the more modern take on things, but you still have the old-fashioned bookmobile. That's
Right.
fantastic.
Right, and it is really a neat thing to go out and to see the families come and check out books there. It is great.
Now, you talked a little bit about more of a structured reading. We get the reading lists, and I remember my children complaining
Right.
about it every summer
Right.
with that. How important is it for parents to adhere strictly to that reading list? You talked a little bit about there are benefits for just leisure reading.
Right. Well, and you know, in talking to various colleagues, you know, that reading list that probably I got and you got, you know, we don't see that quite as often anymore, maybe with some particular subjects and courses, but a lot of it is more of using it as a suggestion. So if students and children have like a particular author or series that they like, you know, just helping them connect and get to something that they enjoy is what we recommend. And those lists that we have available are great starting points for that. Because oftentimes, you know, if a student's really attached to one particular author, once they run out of books, they kind of need ideas to kind of
Right.
hook them on to something else that they might find enjoyable.
So, Dr. Pisani, tell me, what are some tips for parents that can make the reading engaging? And you're talking from small children to middle school to high school, and
Right.
I imagine there are certain tricks that
Right.
you need to employ for the different ages.
Right. Well, and you know, kind of, I guess the overall trick is to find out what is of interest to the child. If there's a certain career that they're interested in, maybe finding books on that career and how they might go about, you know, preparing for it might be one avenue. Or if there's a particular athlete or celebrity, that might be a way to get them into reading about biographies. Likewise, if the family is planning a trip, whether it be to like a state park or to another city, you know, getting them involved in that and kind of doing some research on the brochures and different, you know, internet sites as to what they might see there. It's a way to make reading applicable to
And
them.
for the whole family.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a shared experience that way too.
We talked a little bit before about using recipes, which I thought your idea was perfect. You want to
Right.
describe what?
Right. So
I would not have thought
yeah.
that would be reading.
Right, so it's another example of real world reading where, you know, it's a shared experience too, quite possibly between child and parent, where if you know, take a recipe that they might like to make and it involves reading procedurally and following directions to produce something, you know, for the family to enjoy.
Right, exciting with that. You said that the reading lists aren't as rigid or standard as they used to be, because I wondered, you have a balance here to have a summer that should be relaxing and time for play, and yet you do have to, you don't want the summer slide to take in
Right,
place.
right.
So it is a question of trying to find ways then to make it engaging,
right.
which is probably a good word that you used for that.
Thank you.
The one of the things that I was wondering with the older children too, maybe not so much older, the limiting screen time. We have TVs, we have computers, we have phones. Is that a good way to approach sometimes to make them read a little bit more?
You probably want to, like with anything, you know, kind of set a limit to that as well. But we do have, I know especially at the elementary level, students have access to either iStation or iReady, which are reading programs that do have that interactive component that are online that will be available to them during the summer as well. So, you know, it's kind of finding that in for
That balance. And I think probably what I should have said, what about incentives? Is that a bad idea? I was thinking in terms of screen time for an old child to you know, you can have so much more of the gaming time if you do this. Is that a bad system to,
I guess it probably depends upon the child.
or the incentive?
Yeah.
You don't want to offer 10 candy bars.
Right, yeah. But, you know, if that's what helps to create that balance, you know, I think maybe having, you know, like we said before, you probably don't want them to have to feel like they need to read all day, every day. But if you set apart, you know, a structure of, you know, this half hour a day will be, you know, time spent with a book or book club time, or if you will, that might, you know, help gain that engagement. So then maybe it'll extend beyond that half hour if they find something that they're truly into.
Right. Do you have any other suggestions for community resources that our parents might take advantage of?
I think the local library is a great resource.
You have a partnership with the library.
Yes,
that makes sense. Yes,
and they have story times and so on as well throughout the summer. So getting involved with that and logging some of the books there too would be another great resource.
Unfortunately, I think a lot of parents who are working can't always make those trips. Do you publish when your bookmobile comes around? How can people find access to that?
Yes, it is on our website. So if you if a search is done for Let's Read Seminole,
Let's Read Seminole is the name of the program. Okay.
Then information will come up on Booklist and the bookmobile and where it is and what its set schedule is for each one of the weeks. And there's also access to reading logs that kind of go along with it, because what we'll do when the students return, if they track the books that they've read, the district does a reward system where some names are pulled and prizes are awarded in October.
Great.
Yes.
That's an incentive in itself.
Right.
Very good.
Right.
Yes, thank you. Wonderful tips for the summer. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for having me.